For preventing the spread of COVID-19 within the community and within the work environment, one of the key things that we are teaching is physical distance or social distancing, as it's called, and y'all are doing a really good job of that right now. So keep that in mind and in your forefront of your mind as you move through your interactions and your work day, because that is going to be key. Trying to avoid close, prolonged contact with individuals. That distance is really important. We know that this virus in particular is spread through respiratory droplets with either sneezing, coughing, even talking does spread some form of the droplets, and so that spatial social separation is really important. Depending on your work environment and what your employees do within their day-to-day work activities and their connection with the community coming into the departments, you may not have that spatial separation. Some of your processes may be that you need to wear a mask or have some other form of a physical barrier, which is essentially what a mask is. It's a barrier, or there are other ways to accomplish that barrier when you have to have close contact with individuals. I know throughout the health system we've done plexiglass barriers, and so that's an option to think through when you go back to your areas and start putting in place some of these measures. Another thing that we're going to talk a little bit about is your staff, and what we want to avoid is having illness come into the workplace. So at the beginning, either at the beginning of shifts or at some point in time prior to staff returning to work, there will be an assessment of signs and symptoms, fever, whether it's physically taking temperatures of staff and asking them various questions about fever, cough, shortness of breath. Are they living in a household with an individual who's positive for COVID? That may take place, or simply the staff will attest or sign a form that validates that they state there is no illness in their home and they're not having any symptoms. And then that way we have a sense of confidence that people are not coming into the work environment ill and potentially spreading illness or contaminating the environment. So that's going to be another measure that y'all will talk a little bit more detail about. So we want to make sure we're spatially distancing if possible, or creating barriers. We're not having ill staff members within the workplace. And also within our day-to-day activities, a few things that are really important to try and hardwire is making sure your hands are clean and your environment's clean. And I've taught that for a decade, not just with COVID, but clean hands and clean environment is key to preventing the spread of infections. Hand hygiene is actually the number one way to prevent the spread of infection. I think we all think we clean our hands probably more than we actually do, and I'll be the first to admit that, but just recognizing when we should clean our hands, thinking about it deliberately will create a habit. And so I mentioned with the two previous sessions that some organizations, not only do they clean their hand in between certain activities, but they even do it on an hourly basis. So they'll play a little song and everybody stops, cleans their hands. And so it gets that routine practice and that awareness of keeping our hands clean really on the forefront. We know we should clean our hands, before we eat, after we use the restroom, and those types of activities. But what we know with COVID is that it is introduced through nasal passages or mouth. And so if we bring dirty hands to our face, we put ourselves at risk of introducing the organism into our system that could create illness. So really the key takeaway is clean your hands before you bring them to your face. And studies show that we touch our face far more than we actually realize that we do. And in some of your workspace, you will be required to wear a protective mask. And so I'm going to demonstrate how to put the mask on properly and how to remove it. But a key thing that we find is, masks are a sort of a barrier. However, if you bring dirty hands to that mask, you are contaminating that mask and then putting yourself at risk of introducing microorganisms into your nasal passages, your oral passages. So we want to make sure that we're wearing the mask appropriately, taking it off appropriately, and cleaning our hands before we make any adjustment or movement to that mask. And also within our workday, you know, just a second ago I had a tickle in my throat and I had a cough, and you know, I think everybody's aware of just regular coughs. You know, what do we do? That doesn't mean that we all have COVID if we have a cough, but you know, proper cough etiquette. If you do have to cough, you know, your staff should cough into their elbow. I'm sure that, you know, y'all are all familiar with that, and make sure you have hand sanitizers available to then clean hands. And also have disinfectants available to clean any surfaces that might have been coughed on at that point if you don't, or if you're not wearing a mask within your routine work environment. And also we want to make sure disinfecting of environment occurs on a routine basis. Sometimes we may not, prior to COVID, have a good routine cycle of, you know, hey, everybody, we're going to wipe down our workstations, you know, daily, beginning of shift, end of shift, or what have you, whatever that cycle looks like. Incorporate that into your routine activities of cleanliness within your departments. I know some of you will own the process of having it cleaned, or y'all might have some environmental service teams come in and clean. But also with that routine cleaning, you want to do intermittent cleaning of devices that you use. You know, I teach that this little thing right here that is an appendage of ours needs to be wiped down frequently. You know, it's a part of us, and we pick it up and touch it, and then probably grab a bite to eat or something, and don't even realize that that could be a potential source of contamination. So just thinking through what you're doing every day within your workflow. If there's equipment, computer, keyboard, phone that multiple people use, how do we know it's clean? Is it the person that last used it that cleans it? Or you responsible for cleaning it before you use it to ensure it's clean? So think through every touch point within your environment, and how do you know it's been cleaned since the last person used it, and you know, work through a process to ensure it's clean. Our disinfectants, there's nothing really special other than a disinfectant that's approved to kill COVID that we use, and use it as the label says. Keep it wet as long as it needs to be wet on the surface to kill the organisms, is the process that should be followed. So right now I'm going to demonstrate mask use and hand hygiene. First thing you want to do before you put on any protective equipment is clean your hands. Let's see if Kelly does it right. She's seen 2 of these episodes. So you want to apply friction to your palms. Okay, and then you want to interlace your fingers and do the backs of your hands, and then you want to do your fingertips, and then your thumbs, and then thumbs. Yep, and rub until dry for your hand sanitizer. You put about a quarter size in the palm of your hand and rub until dry. This is the same process for soap and water as well, but you do 20 seconds with soap and water. Okay. Easy peasy. All right, and so my masks are right there if you want to put a mask on. I don't want you putting my mask on, so go. So then you grab your mask and you put it on. So the protective equipment that's going to be supplied to you likely will have the metal bar in it. You want to make sure you form that to fit around your nose for a secure fit. You loop around your ears and make sure the bottom reaches around your chin. And then there you go. There's your proper fit. It's covering your face. We've clean hands, came to our face and touched the equipment, so that mask is clean. So unfortunately, what we oftentimes see with mask use that's being worn inappropriately is that it'll be pulled down around the chin, somebody walking around touching something and they need to pull it down. So now a dirty hand has touched the mask. You might be dirty around here, so now the inside of the mask has become contaminated with whatever's on your neck. Then, oh, we'll hang it on the ear because that's just easier. I need to go take a bite of something or do something, and so we're walking around with it hanging on our ear, and then it's just flapping around and contaminating. If you wear a mask, keep it on, wear it appropriately is the message, so you don't self-contaminate. Hands on and off runs the risk that we are introducing dirty hands or whatever we've picked up to our face, which can be introduced into our nasal passages or our mouth, which creates very risky situations.